Bring it, Professor.
I can think about this. I'll tell you the story of how I was conceived. No, that's disgusting, and I happen to know that my parents have never had sex. So I'll tell you the story about a lecture. And, well, I mean, everybody's been funny and charming so far, so I want to take it down a notch. And you can all buckle in and settle yourselves for a little bit of learning. This lecture, to understand this lecture, you need to know a little bit about Sappho, the ancient Greek poet. See, because, excellent. See, because I'm a classicist. I'm a classical scholar, which means I study the ancient Greek and Latin literature. And I go to conferences, occasionally, where a lot of things happen other than drinking and hanging out and random hookups, including a lot of knowledge. But you need to know a bit more about Sappho. So what do I tell you about Sappho? She's a lovely poet from the 7th century BC. You may know the English adjective sapphic. You may be familiar with the island she comes from, Lesbos, and maybe you're starting to come to some conclusions about Sappho. But until you've seen her hauntingly beautiful lyrics, you haven't really met Sappho. So maybe I should share some. Fragment 976. The moon has gone down, and the Pleiades. It is the middle of the night, and time is passing, and I lie in bed alone. Isn't that hauntingly beautiful?
I think it is.
That's one absolutely, 2 people clapping, excellent. Would you prefer it in ancient Greek? Deducamena solana, kai pleiades mesaide, noctes paradercat hora, ego demona kateudo. Hauntingly beautiful, I ask you. Well, anyway, so now you know a little bit of something about Sappho. So I'm at this conference. Being a classical scholar, I get to go to fabulous places like Madison, Wisconsin, where I sit through many, many talks about early Greek poetry, and then, Anastasia. I shit you not, her name was Anastasia, and she's going to tell us about Sappho. And she's going to tell us about Sappho and all of these 1920s Russian poetesses. Maybe you know Marina Tsvetaeva, maybe you know Zinaida Gippius, maybe you know Sofia Parnak, or Marina Tsvetaeva, did I say that already? And there she is with a commanding presence and a mastery of not just ancient Greek literature, but Russian literature, and she's so dominant and bold and short blonde hair like bone white and giant blue eyes, and so I fell, as people do. And for once in my life I was bold enough to make the next step and ask her to lunch the next day. Please have lunch with me the next day. We can talk about Sappho. Smokescreen, obviously, but you do what you can in a situation like this. And I can't decide what to wear in the morning because I'm a big girl, and I make it to lunch, and I just sit chin perched on my hands, elbows on the table, and watch as she waxes long about all of the beauty of Sappho's sensuality. And I'm not picking up on this at the moment, but I think most of you probably are. You see where the story is going. But I didn't because, well, I mean, faulty logic owns us. We are its bitches, aren't we? And the whole time I'm thinking, this is really the perfect woman. She's a scholar. I admire her. Her words flow over me, and so I lean in for the kiss eventually. But you know where that's going, so maybe I should cut that part of the story short. So brutal. There must be 1,000 ways to tell someone you're not interested. Gently, to let them down gently. But what she did was say, gross! I think she didn't understand how I was being so obtuse. And so I slink away. And maybe there's no happy ending to the story. Except, as you may have picked up from an earlier StorySlam participant, I eventually meet somebody who's even more brilliant, who's even more wonderful, and straight. Even though she lives in North Carolina and I live in Chicago, not a problem, because, well, logic tells us these things work out.